Hey guys, thanks for joining us on The Kids Are Gone, the live version. We're going to be streaming the presidential debate here. You may get some anger out of this. You'll probably get a little bit of frustration. But at the same time, it's going to be all out of love, so it'll be alright. Alright? Alright.
Do you think I should turn off one of the mics just in case there's echo?
In case there's a little bit of feedback, probably.
Why don't we turn that one off?
Well, this is the one that's already plugged in.
This one's plugged in. You never unplugged this one.
Oh, that's true. It's up to you, whichever one you want to run.
I was just thinking because we could put this like...
Right above it and have it reach both of us?
Yeah.
That's fine.
If you want.
Yeah, I just have to add that on as an audio option.
Oh, okay.
Alright, hold on, guys.
If it's not on as an audio...
No, it's not right now, no. As you can tell, this is the one that's picking everything up.
Yeah, okay, then we're fine then. It's
Okay.
not taking it. Never mind, I am so sorry.
That's alright. It's first time doing this, so you guys bear with us. What?
She got a mask on, she don't.
Yep, of course.
You can tell which side of the aisle they're on. Why he look like he's coming out on The Biggest Loser or something? Like as a judge. Like a special guest judge.
I know, right? At least he toned down the orange for this, so that's a positive.
No, that's all lighting.
Waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the President and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong, and where do you think a justice ballot would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes. I will tell you very
Don't do
simply,
that.
we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal...
Do you want to have the chat up on my...
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Yeah, that'd be great,
There you
actually.
go. Do your thing. Whatever you gotta do.
Good in every
I
way,
don't have
good in every way.
it on
You
there.
don't have either app on there.
No,
Jeez,
it's stuck on. Sorry.
Wait, no, where's my phone?
I don't know.
Where's my phone would have everything on there?
Where's your phone? It's in your
I
bag.
think it's on the bed.
I'll get it.
Thank you.
I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long
You're
time
welcome.
at a great school.
Appreciate you.
And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they try to do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it. President Trump, thank you. Same question to
His
you,
voice
Vice
just
President
grates.
Biden. You have-
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we know what happened in reverse. It's definitely is.
Turn it down.
The American people have a right.
You might want to turn it all the way down so it doesn't spit
Yeah,
up at
pick
all.
another.
That say occurs when they vote for a United States senator and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is. Because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president, who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he has been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. What she's written before she went to the bench, which is her right, is she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing is on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man did. Yeah, and that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people with pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already have their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected for the next.
During that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Jim, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish.
You can't just say something's wrong.
Yeah.
Private healthcare that they're very.
Yeah, you can't, and then just be like, and not have the
can't-
number to back it up.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're now into open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President. Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not write any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues.
Hi, people.
What's going on, y'all?
We're saying
Welcome in.
allow people to have private insurance. They can. They do. They will. Under my proposal.
Not what you said, and it's not what
That
your
is,
party has said.
that is simply.
Your party doesn't say. Your party wants to go socialist.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
Right now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the Democratic
according to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. By the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military.
That has nothing to do with what you guys are talking about right now.
Here, it would be 200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You didn't want me to ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban.
All right,
He didn't want him to ban China.
You would have been much later.
He didn't want him to ban it as early as he did. So that's the game plan.
We are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Is that if I can interject small pieces of what you didn't do,
Goes to Roe v. Wade.
then I win.
It's on the ballot as well in the court.
Because he's going to run this into the ground. He doesn't want this to be a back and forth. Like, he wants this to be a back and forth. There's no reason at all. See, look, there's no point for me to let you get your point out. None. Because if you get your point out, your point's valid. And I hate that. But if I can make you get into a back and forth with me, then your points don't matter anymore. Because now we're just arguing.
We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on healthcare, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
He is enjoying this.
Chris Wallace, oh yeah.
A case a week after the election in which the Trump
Like, this is just so fucking absurd.
18 state attorneys general are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last
Because they want to give good health care.
if I may ask my questions. Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan.
Oh, he's gonna hate this.
Well, I'll get rid of
Of course I have.
Excuse me, I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of it. That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare. Chris,
You're
that was
debating
the
him,
worst
not
part of
me. Let me
Obamacare.
ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most
See, I told you.
This is,
Joe.
but see, I love this because where Joe's gonna flounder on this, he can't go for long periods of time. We know that he can't debate somebody back and forth. He doesn't. That's not his strength right now. But if they argue with each other back and forth, bruh, this is beautiful because Chris Wallace has it. Yeah, go ahead and argue with Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace is nothing but facts consistently. You can't argue with facts. I mean, you can, but it makes you look really stupid.
Yeah.
Like the man is basically just
Hello,
pulling.
more people.
The man is basically just pulling up everything you've said over the last 4 years.
cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no
Yeah.
president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices
Hi,
are
Shanna.
down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it.
Shanna said,
Cutting
hey.
healthcare.
I know, that's fine.
Well,
Banana, pleasure, as always.
Give you an example, insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because when they pay just a tiny fraction.
This is open discussion.
No, but this is big. This is big stuff.
You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will. I don't ask you the question. And it will end.
Party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create.
dude.
But you knew this was what this was going to be.
I know.
We all knew what this was going to be. This is not shocking in the slightest.
To want to deny people for
Hey, sis.
anyone who qualifies for Medicare with Medicaid
That's Isla.
automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one. Joe, you agree with Bernie Sanders?
He-
I left on the manifesto. With manifest, you socialize medicine. Look, here, I'm not going to let us know. The fact of the matter is,
What did he
He
say?
said, I'm not going to listen to him. I'm just going to keep answering the question.
every Bronco knows how to do it Tuesday. You got a very lucky deal. I got very lucky. I mean, you're very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure because
Phrasing.
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar. But you I just want to make sure. I want to make sure.
I want them to cut off his mic so bad.
I want to make sure.
President, can you let him finish?
He doesn't know how to do that.
He doesn't.
You pick this up. The wrong guy, the wrong night. Listen, you agree with Bernie Sanders said the whole idea.
Don't get into the back and forth, Joe. Let everybody else who's watching it get into the back and forth. Deliver the points.
Agreed with Bernie Sanders.
Deliver the points.
Absolutely. Do you have any idea what this clown's doing?
He
clown
just
is
called
doing?
the 45th president of the United States a
The
clown.
clown.
Because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers.
He can't do anything, Scott. Like it's is sad in a way because this isn't a debate. A debate is intelligence points on both sides and then a discussion afterwards. What he's doing is muddying it up. If he can do this consistently, you won't care about Joe's points afterwards. All you'll care is the yelling back and forth. That's the only thing that's going to matter. And that's sad that that's the only thing that's going to matter. I'm sorry if you have the app.
Well,
We took away the individual mandate. We guaranteed pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly,
Grumpy old men bicker 2020. That's accurate. That is an accurate statement.
the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high. And it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time. Please let the Vice President.
Good. He has no plan for health care. Of course, we can send, please, he sends out wishful thinking. He has
Mute his mic.
Seriously.
I know we've never done it before during a presidential debate, but to make this anything
everything else
looking like a debate at all,
does not
mute it.
he doesn't have a plan.
Watch him lose his mind
Man doesn't
and mute it.
talking about.
All right, I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, same.
This is a distraction by the president.
This is kind of what I was anticipating. Like, I'm really not shocked by this.
Your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people
Are you gonna give up a peaceful?
Yeah. If he asks you the transition question, are you going to answer?
The question is, because this radical left, would you shut up, man?
Radical left? Oh, baby. You don't know what radical left is.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
Second subject is COVID-19. This is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We've had more than 7 million
This
cases
isn't gonna happen, but
of the virus in the
let's
United
try it.
Let's try it out and see what it does.
100,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your
Yeah.
opponent?
And honestly, that's a negative for both of them, but more so Joe. Because we know how
Trump is.
aggressive Trump can be.
200,000
That's a given.
over 7 million.
I wanted to see him in this debate
We, in fact, have
stay consistent. I wanted him to ignore the side comments.
20% of the deaths
I wanted him to be
a day
just
contracting.
talking. I want that.
In addition to that,
That stare straight to the camera. Forget the noise. Let's just talk.
is what it is. It is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people.
Because he was a coward.
He panicked.
Shout out
Next
though.
to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that
Because
Chinese
he
people
freaked out when he first heard about it.
Mhm.
be able to go to Wuhan.
And he assumed everyone would panic because he was afraid.
He did not even ask
Well, because he knew at that time the economy was rolling.
John Sheehan
So the second you put people into that is the second that they were going to
transparent with us.
step back.
And what did he
So I'm going to ride this out for as long as I can.
And ended up fucking it up worse.
have a plan? I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open. Open schools
Mhm.
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yep.
You should get out there quicker and
course, people did panic. I mean, people were going to panic. But do you allow them the opportunity? Because I have a plan and I have consistency. So you're going to feel fear about this. That's human nature. But do I give you the opportunity to feel that fear knowing that there's a plan in place? Even though trust in the government is always a questionable thing. At least you know I have a plan in place to be able to take care of this. I bet you that sample size is a lot smaller.
You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand.
Yeah.
But if you look at
I don't think it's unprepared. I think he went into this with the idea that he was going to be able to ignore the noise,
And he can't.
and his temper is getting to him. Because look at him.
He's getting so fucking annoyed.
Yep.
Dr. Fauci said,
And he's letting him get under his skin.
Mm-hmm.
many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a
I just
phenomenal
realized that
job.
we're underneath
We
the
did.
live
We
button.
got the gowns, we got the masks, we made the ventilators. You
Oh, yeah.
made ventilators, and now we're weeks away from a vaccine.
When we go on break, I'll adjust it.
Fewer
It's
people
okay.
are dying when they get sick. Far fewer
I just
people are
looked and
dying.
saw.
We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done it.
Yeah, because he's not that incompetent.
Yeah. What job?
What job did you do? You didn't tell people about how bad it was until, what, a month, 2 months after you knew how bad it was. And then you told people it's just the flu and it'll magically go away.
Shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost
That's what there it
Yeah.
is. Connect. Ignore and connect. There you go. Don't even sideways. Whatever.
Another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up and he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just the mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all. Nor do you. I know you do.
I would never trust a vaccine that like, was rushed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am not an anti-vaxxer. Like, I'm all for vaccines.
Absolutely.
Like, I fucking love, like, I'm all for
Mm-hmm.
them. But it's rushed.
Either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those are your two words. But Dr. Slawi, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political.
It's a political.
What?
It is a very political thing. I've spoken
It's
to Pfizer,
about
I've
making
spoken
sure
to
people don't
people that
die
have
from
speaking
a
with
rushed
Moderna,
vaccine
Johnson & Johnson and others. They can
or
go
get
faster than
super
that by
sick
a lot.
or it not work and then get COVID and die or get super sick.
I disagree with
Am I the only one?
No, I disagree with both of them.
I'm sorry, I'm listening.
It could be that, but it could also be
Well,
much
you go on tirade.
No, I'm with
Do you
you.
hear? Do you see what I have to deal with? Jeez, I'm
possibility that
peeved.
we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be after that. Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be. This is the same man. It's all set up. By Easter, this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm. That would take. Sarcasm.
You said it! Bro, that's not sarcasm. You said that.
You actually said that.
Having the vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out. If we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have the vaccine soon.
I want to pick up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying you can't, Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the science.
No, you can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be
Yes.
suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't.
He's trying not to over exaggerate.
Yeah, because he knows that that's going to be something they'll pick up on.
And spoke to the scientists that are in charge. They will have the vaccine very soon. But do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue?
That's very true. And that's going to be the problem is that depends on when it comes out. If people come out, if the vaccines dropped in November, it'll be very hard to get people to take it.
He's on record as saying it.
Very hard.
Panicked, or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two. Because guess what? A lot of people die. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President,
You used the word smart. So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever
You paid your way into school, Chief. Like, that's proven at this point now, too.
There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing. Let's have this debate. If you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe. If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again. See, and it's
we're
going
going to
up
get to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay. It's going up fast.
Okay.
Forward to it.
When it comes to how the
Oh, I'm
virus
half
has
of
been
it.
handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and school. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide them Nancy Pelosi. Please just shush for a minute. Tell it to Nancy Pelosi. And Schumer, by the way, Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate. And he sits on his golf course. And, I mean, literally, think about it. You probably play more than I do, Jim.
What about this question of reopening?
He wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we did it. We just admitted shut it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe. Just for 1 second.
Jesus.
He wants to shut down.
But this is bro. Like, I'm so mad at how successful this is going to be for him. Because if you go back and forth, you're.
We learned a lot. Young children are.
This is the rope-a-dope.
Even young
Yeah.
people are. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people.
I'm gonna hit you and hit
You
you.
look at Pennsylvania, you look at certain states that have been shut down. They have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
No,
Oh,
asshole.
But those states
They're trying to keep people fucking safe.
that are shut down right now.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer, and in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you?
Seniors edition.
I understand if you were going to have a mask right here. But when I think I need it.
Yeah.
Tonight, as an example, everybody social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear
When
masks like
needed.
him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say,
The biggest wow.
Look, way to open businesses is getting
Granted, I
baby.
to Scott's point,
Provided money
I
and contracts.
they're both too old.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a reflection of what the country is right now. And that's the scary part. Is that you're going to have either man is not a reflection of the world that you want it to be, and both of them are on a stage.
and they've also said the opposite.
This is pathetic.
Goodness gracious.
Masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm okay with
What?
masks.
I want to ask you both about one last.
That sound. I think he's getting himself mixed up with Joe.
You have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Nobody will show up.
people with.
Nobody shows up to his rally.
In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But
you've
you're not
done a
worried
great
about
job
spreading
as
the
president, and I'll have 35,000
And
people
your
show up
team
at airports.
pays them.
When you say,
Are you not worried about
we have a
these
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference according to the experts. But we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean,
Didn't we just have a massive outbreak in South Dakota where the first rally was?
and Joe does
Yeah.
the circles.
Yeah, isn't South Dakota one of the biggest states now with COVID update? Yeah, okay, just checking.
And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. And that's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing one another. No negative.
Facts.
No negative.
Facts.
That's it.
And we've had 35, 40,000
Maybe
people
one of
at these rallies.
just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
Then he's a fool.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy? Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yeah.
The economy is actually recovering faster than expected from the shutdown. In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard.
Yep.
psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close
When
it
is it
down.
not?
He was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now. Instead of still 204,000 people is too much.
Because you haven't heard anything about policy yet, one way or another.
Nope.
I don't know what they're running on. I don't know where they stand because they're going back and forth.
That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that.
Exactly.
Oh, we're gonna open up in November.
I should know by the time a debate's done where you stand
They're hurting us.
on central topics that are important to me as a voter. And by the time this is done, the only thing I'm going to know is that they know how to tell each other how to shut up.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want, but they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look at these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's
You
a
know what?
very,
Speaking
very
of
sad
prisons,
thing. and he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country.
Maybe they should be
Our
talking
country is
about
coming
that.
back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right, your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you.
Yeah,
As
Yes, it
as
is.
said, posing the question, the president
absolutely
says
is.
it's a V-shaped recovery, you say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him, in the middle of the COVID crisis,
Well, not after you saw a tax return.
You know that that's all
I know.
sorts of write-offs and
I know.
creative accounting.
I know.
and you only focus on the market.
And if it's not,
You focus
then
on Scranton, Claymont, and all the small towns and working
all
class
those
towns
people
where
that voted for him the first time around because he was such a successful businessman
$750
might want to
tax.
rethink that idea.
Sir, it's just, yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
I get my time back. The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave
Mhm.
office, having fewer
Yep.
jobs in his administration.
That is
than when he
exactly
became
what they're
president.
doing.
Fewer jobs than when he became first one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why are schools open? Because it
Wow, you're
costs a
missing
lot
your
of money to
T-Pain
open
opening,
safely.
babe. I'm
You know,
sorry.
That's all
if
right.
they were going to give, this administration were going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I
We're
have
going
to
to.
respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Yeah.
That's me. He made a statement.
So did you.
People want their
And so did you.
No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And I'm very proud of it. You know,
It was just you. It was solely you by yourself.
At the moment, but first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you pay $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars.
That's not what he asked you.
And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
a year.
return.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to do, go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a I built a great company.
See, now he's got him
I understand all of that.
defending himself,
No, Mr. President.
saying that he's he broke.
Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars in yep.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get this. And you'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me
Yeah.
just tell you something. That it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private
I was a
person,
private business people?
They go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges.
Yeah, he said millions of dollars of income tax. He said that.
We built the building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which by the way was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less
Thrice.
tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And we're going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who in fact need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over in the last 25 years?
Because you were
Why didn't you do it over
because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just say, Joe, I've done more in 47 months.
Yes, he is absolutely admitting that he exploited the system.
Mhm.
Things that you never even thought of.
Yes, he is.
Including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
We're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what as the analysis done by Wall Street firms points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make, this federal government spends $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, and the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it billions of dollars?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done, and you know what happened?
You got it done.
Our economy boomed.
And
It's never boomed.
the economy is
Mr. President, Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes,
Yeah.
deregulation, correct?
not lower taxes for American people.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming, it turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave from other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew it. He
It
blew it.
wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery.
Sir, is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact, when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse me,
Number one.
Chris, wait.
Number two.
Chris,
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take a
guy.
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
What
did
am I
not do that.
standing fair?
I'm the guy
He
that brought
totally
back the
gave up on
automobile
manufacturing.
Let him
Chrysler and General Motors brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not.
And they didn't come in like that.
Mr. Vice President.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. And its trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch.
All right, gentlemen,
China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars.
don't do
Takes
it.
out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, said, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Marissa to deserve $183,000?
None of that is true. None of that is true.
Really?
Totally,
Mr. President,
it's
Mr. President, please.
totally discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
that is not true.
Really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion. Please,
mic.
it's a fact. Well, you're going to raise an issue, let Mr. Vice
You
President
can't.
answer.
Okay. I don't know if it actually happened. No,
Mhm.
I wasn't there. I'm not them.
Mhm.
But you can't just say something's a fact and it be true.
Of course, see,
Why do people fucking
in
do this?
in a lot of ways, President Trump is perfect for the time he's in. Because it can be true. Because all he has to do is say allegedly. And then
You
the
have
next.
to say allegedly. He's not even saying allegedly. He's saying that's fact.
Yeah, because look, because even right now, I bet you there are people watching who heard him just say that about Hunter Biden.
And they believe it 100%.
Hook, line, and sinker. No.
That's a fact. Well, he said it was a fact.
Yeah, no research, no independent sources, no third-party sources who don't have any skin in the game one or another. I heard him say it. I heard the news team who supports him say it. It has to be true. There's no other way around it. And to me, it's brilliant because where he wins and where a lot of politicians win is that I don't need everybody to like me. I just need a corner. I need a strong corner, and I need some people not to like the other guy.
Yeah.
That's all I need. I don't need anything else. What for?
Because most of the country doesn't vote for who they want. They vote for the person that's running against the person they don't want.
Yeah.
Want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about. It's not about you.
That's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
You didn't take that.
Vice President,
Oh my God! He said you're moving on. You should cut off both of the ranks when they do this shit.
With $1 billion,
That is absolutely not true.
You're going to have it true. Gentlemen, I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to me, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal. We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want.
I agree.
I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer...
The only reason why I even rock with the idea of Joe Biden is because, one, the team that Joe is building around him right now, when you factor in Pete Buttigieg, when you factor in the dude who was talking about UBI, I can't think of what his name is.
Oh. Oh shit.
Please continue on. The issue of race.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's not gonna happen.
President Trump's
there's a difference between somebody who's a narcissist, who I run this, I don't need a team, it's just me and everybody else, versus somebody who's like, you know what, I don't have all this by myself. I know I don't have all this by myself. Let me go ahead and go get somebody who knows what they're looking at.
for black Americans than any president
I think that's a completely different ballgame.
of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is why should voters trust you rather than your
Andrew Yang.
opponent to
There you
deal
go.
with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years?
Yeah, as soon as you said UBI, as soon as you typed in UBI, I was like, Andrew
It's
Yang.
about equity and equality.
You're still welcome.
It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to
I should have got a case with a
equity for everyone, equality
keyboard.
for all of America. But we've never accomplished it. We've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, spewing, and just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the
Yeah.
president what he thought. He said,
It's a shocking concept.
people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that. It is now, second point, I think, is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military
Pepper sprayed them.
tear gas on him so he could walk across to a
Tear
church and
gas.
hold up the Bible. And then what happened after that?
Just so he can hold up the Hitler Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It was the disgrace.
In front of a church that he never goes to.
Said he
Yep.
all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So, President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust
Law
you
and order.
opponent to deal with race?
Did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Jefferson.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you've treated the African American population community, you've treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You called them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals. Total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the word law
I'm
enforcement?
sorry, it's just so funny that he thinks that he has radical love supporters.
Yeah, I was like,
Most of the radical left
hate Joe
hate
Biden.
both of you.
Yeah, equally.
And the rest of them just don't give a shit.
We got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities.
And what you mean by law and order is militarize the police, use the military themselves as police, and shut up anyone who doesn't agree with you. You
This country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I'm going to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast
I
majority
looked right over and said, see, I can say law enforcement. It just came out of my lips. Right to you.
Twice.
But there are some bad acts, and when they occur, when they find them, they have
I said it when I said it, and then I said it again when I told you I said that I said it.
to be held accountable. And what I'm going to President of the United States has called together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups, the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out. So we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest? No,
protest.
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race, and I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies
Did
to
you
end
start recording?
racial
Yeah, it
sensitivity
copies the link.
training that addresses
No, no, no.
white privilege or critical
I don't know
race
how this thing
theory.
works, man.
I know.
Why did you
That's what you
decide
taught me for.
to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
What
else.
is radical?
And he would
What
know
is-
it. It's totally
About
racist.
racial sensitivity training.
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we would pay people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And
What?
really, they were teaching people to hate our country.
Joe's gonna have so many memes by the time this is done.
I know, right?
Because there are times where his
Like-
face is like, what?
They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that
What?
to happen.
Vice President Biden.
Nobody's doing that. He's a racist. Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson,
Racists.
You go to very many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened.
And
frankly, it was more violent
non-racist.
than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason is that the Democrats have
The divide was the racists saying, that's not my president.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order?
Yes, I'm a president. You asked the question, let him finish.
Law and order.
This is
Law and order.
Let him.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration. It's gone up on his watch.
Much more in ours.
All right, we're down. Mr. President, you're going to. Mr. President,
Every record of the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
places we had trouble with Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. crime. It is crazy what's going on, and he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters, and once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country, and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
I know, I heard it.
suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
You
never
wouldn't
seen.
know a suburb unless you took a wrong turn.
I know suburbs.
You would not.
So much better.
Go ahead, wait a
I
minute.
was raised in a suburb. This is not like
I
all
will
they thought was when races
go
the suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with cars.
That's the kids part, and the kids are gone, guys.
Environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though, and in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support? It means, let me, if I might finish the question, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Oh,
My support
Yeah.
is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm not totally opposed to defunding the police officers. Matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know.
this is the honestly, it's the middle ground.
Crime went down. It didn't go up.
Okay, but listen to how he just worded that.
I know, because he's about
To
to
keep
he's about to
them-
eat it alive.
To keep them from having to use force.
He doesn't have any law or discipline.
He doesn't have any law or order.
Look, who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do
No, no,
anything.
think
except
about
listen.
Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported you.
I'm going to take back the
They're
moderator's
I don't
role,
think they're learning.
and I want
To take back the moderator's role.
You've been struggling, Chris. This is ain't.
that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. The Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted. And anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people, that's the leader, excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call, bring in the National Guard and not 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of a young man in the middle of the street, and they shot him. And for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland didn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals, and they took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help us cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do. Who? I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the
It wasn't Kellyanne.
point is that
It was Scaramucci, but that's
we
fine.
always keep trying to rile with the
Lord knows this man is lighted up today where you can balance it out.
Yeah.
Talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary.
Okay, and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly repeatedly
Well, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No, you have
His statement.
repeatedly. You have no, you've been talking back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it.
You know, if you want to switch seats, we could
very quickly.
We could do that. But
I
I'm
said that the National Guard would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National
Control
Guard.
You have
of
repeatedly
debate.
criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out
Hmm.
Antifa and other left.
I'm sorry. This is
I sent to control of your debate.
take control of your debate. But this is so over the next two, because the next two moderators aren't as friendly to him as Chris Wallace is. I am so curious what this looks like when he doesn't have that anymore. When that's stripped away.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacist and
Would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacist and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
You got it.
Not militia. That's what
Here's an idea.
Thank you, Joseph.
his FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
Antifa is not an organization. If you think that Antifa is an organization, research Antifa. Like, not on Vox News, but like actually research what Antifa means. It's not an organization. It is an idea. An idea that you're anti-fascism. You don't want fascism to be a thing.
Which is don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight
Like,
flanks and behind me and above.
it was a real
There's
thing that
never been an
happened.
administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything
No,
was
it just,
everything
it's a
was going
scary
my
word.
way. There was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe, and then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges.
Whoever was prepping him for this was like, really hammer hard what you did for the military, because you're not doing so hot with him right now.
Record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left
You ended up doing it for
128
years.
openings, and if I were a member of his party,
You ended up doing it for
because they
years.
have a little different
I think I had to. I think I listed it that one. But I'll be able to just transfer it over.
That's
here.
what I was just asking, man.
You can't be a good vice president, but I want to thank
I
you because it
just
gives
want
us
to learn.
almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him with the booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin
It's
about
Putin's puppy.
the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
Putin puppy.
Mr. President, your campaign agreed that both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it. And why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
No, sir. No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yes, you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly,
He said, "Why are you asking a rhetorical question?" Like, why are you answering a rhetorical question? That's hilarious.
more, just since COVID, you and the whole, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes. And I resent like hell. I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It
For
wasn't dishonorable.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is true.
president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow.
That is simply
and various
not
other
true.
places. He
My
made a
son,
fortune.
my son,
And he didn't have a
my
job.
son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was
Proud
he
of my
given
son.
10 million?
Your son boots cocaine right now.
Right.
Like,
You don't want to talk about kids, Brett.
As the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
$3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Is it just me or does that number go up every time that he says it? Because wasn't it like 138,000 earlier?
I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have
'cause the bush-
displaced
Mhm.
hundreds of
The
thousands of
underbrush.
people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr.
'Cause the
President,
material
you said,
will-
I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you
Everything
have
that I'm
pulled
not
the
part
US
of.
out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenal. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out.
Joe's face. I'm coming up with like 3 different gifts when this is all over with, because his face.
Because our businesses are doing well. As far as I'm concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else.
See? I tell you, it's it's because of the underbrush.
You gotta have forest management.
Just good old underbrush.
What do you believe about the science of climate change?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting.
You're not
a billion
answering my
trees,
question.
The Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting.
believe that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of the
I think a
planet?
lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent.
So
yes.
he's admitting. Okay, all Trump supporters out there, that is him admitting that global warming is a thing.
Well, that's about as much as you're gonna get of him admitting them.
Because he just asked him if that
Getting those calls.
contributes to global warming, and he said a lot of things contribute to it. That's him admitting that global warming is a thing.
It's a forest city.
So suck my dick.
He said, "Sir, we have trees that are falling
Oh my god.
much some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of
But sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed
So,
fuel economy standards?
energy prices are more important than
Because what's happening is
Mhm.
the car is much
the
less
climate.
expensive, and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they simply
No, but you
ignored
would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, so, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about the concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, when during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that in fact is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they in fact are weatherized in a way that in fact they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now.
I think this makes the debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris that much more important,
Yeah.
because that's going to be your policy debate. It shouldn't be your vice presidents in your policy debate, but because of the way that these two are, that's when you're going to get your policy breakdowns.
And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that
See, here's the thing.
basically says that you have
Is that shit happens to me all the fucking time.
economic
And that's,
and he's drawn his line.
I never understood when we started having the idea that politicians had to have everything together when they had these. Like, I don't mind the fact that he stutters. The only reason I care is because everybody who's watching, not
Who's
everybody,
the people who are on the fence who are
Yeah.
watching.
they will take that as him not knowing what he's talking about.
But then the fucked up thing is that they take that from, like, so many people take that from Trump as just being, well, he's passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly that is not where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows. Not, that's not true either, right? This is a 100 trillion. That's more money than our country could make in 100 years if
not the case.
All right, let me, because I actually, wait a minute, sir. studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes...
That's why he said homes.
I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
You don't know. The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them.
I never said that.
That's what they did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
They made it up.
They made it.
You said it. There's video footage of you saying it.
That's made up. It's a deep fake.
He probably would. He wouldn't call it a deep fake. He'd call it a deep take. That's a deep throat.
It's a deep throat. I like that. That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was great.
It was so stupid.
It was deep throat.
15% of the world's problems. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the
China.
He's a He was a senator.
China.
He wasn't the president for 47
He wasn't the
years.
fucking Secretary of State. He wasn't the fucking president. China. This coming from the guy who, like, every time that the Chinese government actually says something to him, he's like, they're great people. They're the best.
answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all was random.
I'm in a little trouble myself. But, and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental change is.
Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. You're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
Do you
You're going to
support
build
Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
No, oh, well, that's a big statement.
I support the
That's the radical left.
I support the Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks?
What is it?
Because it'll not only be to election day,
I'm still pissed off at Indiana.
Why?
mail-in ballots
'Cause
after election day. What are you prepared to do to
They
reassure the
did
American
not
people
extend
that
the
president
no
will be the
excuse
legitimate
Mhm.
mail-in ballots.
That's all right. We'll go out there with our masks on.
vice president?
We'll get there as early. That luckily,
I-will-vote.com.
Yeah.
we'll get it done.
Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating.
Except for that one Republican that did it in West Virginia.
Because of COVID, that are going to be
Yeah, but yeah.
mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida. Number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you. Because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that will be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter. Because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country's going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So, when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won. From the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the
That's
name
not
changes.
how,
The
guys.
other day in a waste paper basket.
That's not how that works.
They sent all over the place.
I
They sent they sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots.
let me explain something to you. They don't just randomly send you a fucking
Unsolicited ballot.
unsolicited ballot. They don't just randomly send you a ballot. If there is a state that has gone to who is trying to get everyone to vote by mail, they have like campaigns going on right now to make sure you know when to get your ballot, how to apply for your ballot. You have to apply to get a mail-in ballot. You have to go on whatever website they tell you, fill out information so that they make sure that you are not voting more than once, that you're not being fraudulent. There's this whole fucking, like, they give you the ballot, they give you the instructions, you have 2 different envelopes that you have to seal it inside with your personal information so that they know it's you. So that if they see your name on there or your personal information more than once, they know to flag it. And they send it in. You send it in, rather. And it's counted. You don't, it's not just like, oh, hey, look what I got in the mail. It looks like a ballot. Like, I didn't ask for this one. That's not how that works. Don't let him lie to you.
In terms of the election itself, but for the ballots, I think so, because what's happening is incredible. I just heard, I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them. They throw them out left.
There are millions of ballots going out.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay. Or you go and vote.
That's illegal.
Millions of people.
You go and vote. You go and vote. Like they
Do a solicited, okay. Do a solicited ballot or go and vote. Which is basically vote by mail or go and vote.
Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers.
Honey, though, he was doing that for you, though.
This is not going to
Don't.
end well.
And he was caught. Like, that's what they do. They catch you.
Including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in until the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the vote.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on this. Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so weak when he makes his statement
No,
like that.
excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not
They're, yeah, because they don't get in time.
been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned
What I want to know is
that the
why
Supreme
don't they
Court,
have,
Justice Barrett, will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned.
with as many things as you can do online now that are so specific, like you have to have specific
Supposed to have an affidavit.
information and you can only do it once.
Why won't they start an online voting?
Yeah.
In fact, you can verify that.
And I get that, like, a bunch of old people who don't know what the internet has been capable of will say, well, that's a higher risk of fraud. And I'm sure if they do it, like, not right, like if they rush it and it's not done right and they haven't tested every possible way of committing fraud. I mean, that's to say that you truly believe that right now there aren't people committing
Fraud.
I mean, that's just always going to happen.
Election workers are prohibited, currently by law,
Anyway,
even beginning the process.
but why not
Come out of the envelope
find a, like, create
until election day. That means that it's
a voting website
a huge increase.
where you have to put in all of this personal information, and a computer is provided is coded correctly, is more likely to catch, just like when you're creating a profile, there's already someone with this username and username.
You can't do this.
Yeah, so if you have to put in, like, your social security number and your full name and
Hold on 1 second. I'm listening. I'm sorry. Because he just asked him, what do you tell his supporters to stay calm?
Declare victory until the election has been independently certified. President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully because that's what has to happen.
oh, now he's not just
That's what I was afraid of.
now he's not just saying go vote. Now he's saying go watch the polls.
That's what I was afraid of. That's what I wanted to hear. That.
Bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what, from a common sense,
This doesn't surprise me, but yet it's still like
80 million ballots, they're not equipped to, these people aren't equipped to handle it. No,
like I knew this was coming,
cheat. They cheat. Hey,
but
they found
every time it's still just like
paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice
You
President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge
well,
your
all ballots
supporters
will have your name on it.
while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
You had an opportunity to
Look at
respond.
Carolyn
Go ahead.
Maloney. They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy, I want to say, honest ballot.
Gentlemen, we say that's the end of it. This is the end of this debate.
Honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave it
he
there.
does too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on.
You're pushing your hair on camera.
I got so frustrated by listening to this.
I know.
I want to thank you both for participating.
Oh.
The first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from
All right, guys. So this was bad.
Yeah.
we're gonna
as
have
bad as we figured.
we're probably gonna have to do another video on just this debacle when I finally have a chance to
Truly.
breathe and take in this ridiculousness. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to, if you like our content, feel free to go ahead and go to the We Have Some Thoughts page on both Facebook Watch and on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe that stuff. And
We'll probably live stream the next one as well.
if I have the mental wherewithal to deal with this again,
Yeah,
because
and,
it'll
and
suck.
we'll try to figure out how to do it on. We Have Some Thoughts.
Yeah, the actual channel itself. But this is going to be posted on the We Have Some Thoughts channels right after
Yep.
this. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night.
Mwah.